A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to our afternoon session. We trust that you enjoyed your meal. So now let's move ahead with an engaging seminar. Our next session, Energy Transition from Cost Pressure to Competitive Advantage. This session will explore how Thailand can turn the challenges of rising energy costs and the transition to cleaner power into a source of long-term economic competitiveness. For this session, we have Minister of Energy, Mr. Kiatnakin Phatra, Chairman of the Board, Bigrim Power, Dr. Harald Link, Chief Commercial and Investment Officer, Digital HDC, Mr. Yaniv Gitis, and we also have Managing Director and Chief Economist, Kiatnakin Phatra Securities, Dr. Pipat Leungnaramithai will be the moderator for this session. So ladies and gentlemen, may I now invite the speakers and moderator on the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our session on energy transition. Let me briefly set up why we're here and why we're talking about these issues. I think, as you all know, energy is not only the economic issue in Thailand, but it's a very important political one as well. Right? I think we've seen the government get into trouble from the energy and gas prices. And I think we are at the moment where we're seeing the structural change. In the past, over the past 4 decades, I think Thailand relied on the energy from the Gulf of Thailand, and that's provide economic shocks because every time we get into issue of energy price shock, I think Thailand have the shock absorber relying on the gas from the Gulf. And now the production in the Gulf has peaked, and we are relying a lot more from imported gas and energy price as well. So we are increasingly more exposed to the energy, the global energy price. And as Reignite, Deputy Prime Minister mentioned this morning, I think that's one of the key issues. And also at the same time, we have a new wave of investment, namely the data center, which demand not only clean and reliable, but cheap energy as well. Right? So I think this poses a very big question in terms of how Thailand would do the energy reform to fit both the supply and demand issues going forward. And we have the distinguished panel with us today. Let me briefly introduce each of the panelists. I think first of all, we have the Energy Minister of Energy, Kun Kiatnakin Phatra, who has a very tough brief, right? Not only he has to getting the price down over the next quarter, but he has to prepare for the energy investment over the next 2 decades as well, right? Thank you for being here. Next, we have Kun Harald Link of Bigrim. Right? As you know, Bigrim has been in Thailand since 1878, I believe. And which is to say, it's a company that has seen many transitions of Thailand before, right? And at the same time, under Dr. Link, Bigrim Power has become one of the region leading independent power producers with operation across Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Korea, Japan, and more recently the US, I believe. So I think he has the length and the depth in terms of the energy exposure. And we have Kun Yaniv, Chief Commercial Investment Officer of Digital Age. Digital Age is one of the fastest growing data center platform in Asia with the campus across Japan, Korea, India, Indonesia, Philippines, and Thailand. Right? So I think we have a lot of experience, and I think he represents on the demand side of the equation today. Right? And we agree that I think we're gonna get the big elephant out of the room first. And I think data center is one of the key issue, and it's under a controversial discussion in many, many countries, not only in Thailand, right? And the big question is with the data center investment, the question is how is that going to impact resources in Thailand, not only the electricity price, but water, and how Thailand could make sure that we benefit from the investment in data center, because many people are arguing that domestic impact, economic impact would be limited. So let's talk about this issue first. Let me start with Minister Eganat in terms of this issue, how Thailand is prepared for the big investment in data center, both in terms of the resources and how that's going to impact the electricity price in Thailand.
Well, thank you very much. Very happy to be here today. Well, the quick answer to the question is that with the right policy and with the right regulation, of course, with the economic contribution coming from data centers, will not create unnecessary impacts on the community, on the environment. So, simply speaking, beforehand, people were thinking that with the incoming of data centers, it will make electricity price higher because more gas needs to be imported to produce more electricity. With the right regulations and the right policy now, that we will make sure that new investment coming in will be responsible for the cost, the marginal cost of the imports of gas that's contributed to the electricity. We think it will be fair. You pay for what you import, but saying that a lot of investors might not be smiling. They think that the electricity would be expensive for data centers, but actually it is not, because we're also giving the options of the access to the direct power purchase agreement market. So in the future, we'll have a dual market. One, which is this enhanced single buyer, which is what it is now today. But we also have the direct market of clean energy, where not only data centers, in fact, but also other industries that want clean energy can source electricity from suppliers that can produce electricity at the cheapest cost. So there'll be competition. So we need to make sure that this is what it is, because of course we want to send the right signal to the public. Inviting data centers to this country. Now, of course, a lot of people fear electricity price, fear of the environmental impact. But what the government can assure is that now the policy and regulation are being revised to make sure that we can appreciate economic contribution at the same time without damaging the environment, without damaging, increasing the cost of living through electricity. So this will need to be quick. We were just saying beforehand that what I feel is that the higher price electricity doesn't scare investors or data centers as much as the time it will take for the government to conclude the policy and to make sure to clarify the direction. And so rest assured we're working very, very quickly to conclude all the policies, and the clear direction will be coming out very soon.
Yeah, thank you. So certainty is important as important as generosity, I guess. Kun Link, what's your thought on this data center issue and the impact on the energy and the data center as an investment in Thailand? ขอสไลด์ Yeah.
So I think an additional question is, does a data center take away a lot of water? So we have been in the business of providing electricity to lots of industries, and we always make sure that we have enough water for it. So there are some industrial parks that have enough water, and some data centers, they use air cooling. So I think if we think of the issue of water, you have to only think of the Middle East. Middle East doesn't have much water. They do. They take it from the sea. So I think it's more a question of the cost of the water. So the industrial parks, when they have enough water, they provide for what they can do. If they don't have enough, then somebody has to build a desalination plant, and Thailand is directly at the Gulf of Thailand, so I think we have enough water. And I would just like people to not be afraid of data centers. Data centers are really important to house all the information right here. So if we house our information in Singapore or house it in America, then the time for the information to come to where it has to be is long. And secondly, we don't own it. It is somewhere else, and somebody else can use it. So we need to have it here with us. Then we need to have the manufacturing of the chips in Thailand, or at least some of them. And the manufacturing of everything that goes into a data center has to be from Thailand. So by that way, we can protect the industries in Thailand. Because the industries in Thailand are also worried that maybe everything goes to China. And we know from our Chinese customers that they are very fast in building factories and so on. But I think, from what I understand, the government will try to make sure that we use whatever is made in Thailand. Now, what does a data center bring to us? Data center bring to us that all the information is here in Thailand, low latency, we can develop whatever we want. And if you look at the whole stack there, the applications and the AI models, the cloud infrastructure, chips and computing, and the energy, we have to develop more in Thailand. And from what I understand from the data center companies, they will offer to the Thai government what they will bring to Thailand. And we have already started. So one part is education. Education, very important. So who can teach students to become entrepreneurs? So the universities have to shift to that direction. And we brought a university to Thailand that actually teaches students to become an internet entrepreneur, taught through people from the industry. And when we talk to universities about that, they like the concept. And I think this is what we need to have. We need to always be at the next level of the industry development. Then we need not only good education in universities, but we also need good vocational education. Thailand has since 2011 the opportunity for vocational students to finish the vocational studies and then enter the university if they want, like it has been in Germany for the last 100 years. And no matter how fast AI comes to Thailand, you still need people to keep the light on, to do your plumbing, to do the gardening. Even though maybe in the future, maybe some robots can do it, but I think that will take a long, long time. So we should have a really good education system, and I hope that the data center companies will be asked to help the universities to create more know-how for students to be able to be an internet entrepreneur, to be good technicians, to be good engineers, and be good builders of data centers. So that's the direction where we are definitely going. And then you can see all the applications. Once you are educated in using the internet well, educated in using the AI properly, not just ask one question, get one answer, then you can have the applications like that. So I just learned from my friend in America, there's a company, one-man show, $400 million sales. and not an IT company.
Okay, great. Thank you. Khun Yanif, let me get into you as the data center operator. In terms of the calculus of things that we discussed now, in terms of like the green energy, reliability, and price, what's go into your decision making about where to invest a data center? And the second question would be based on your experience, how Thailand should do in order to maximize our potential benefits that we're going to get from the data center investment.
Yeah, thanks for that, and thanks for the SCT for having us today here. It's a great event. I'll say, I think Deputy Prime Minister Kinetti mentioned at the end of his speech about the leadership driving the Thailand capturing the next investment cycle, which is around artificial intelligence. It's just an incredible opportunity, which our view is we have just seen the beginning of it. So this is a 20-year game. It's not something that needs to be resolved over the next 6 months. We are an investor in data centers across 9 markets in the region. We have thought very carefully before we move and enter the Thai market. And it's not about price or cheap or anything. I think the thing that attracted us the most to the Thai market is the thoughtfulness and the leadership from the regulators around how the data center industry will shape the growth of Thailand. I think Thailand has a lot of examples to learn from other countries being studying now. And we are very impressed with all the work that the government here is doing. Just naming a few, I think the BOI and under the leadership of, again, Deputy Prime Minister has been an incredible ease of doing business in this country, which has helped us a lot in our growth in this market, the Fast Pass and many other initiatives. I think the detailed and thoughtful legislation coming from EGAT, PEA, MEA, and the entire ecosystem, this is all very impressive. And while I appreciate Minister cannot point on clarity, I think it's okay not to rush it. It's painful for us not having that clarity yet, but this needs to be a 20, 30-year long-term partnership, and it has to be done together. It's not about what we can give the country. It's not about what the country gets from us. It's a long-term partnership. I think for us, when we enter a new market, we usually do it at Digital Edge with a local partner. We interviewed more than 20 large groups in Thailand before finding our soulmates with Big Rim. We are very grateful for our partnership with Big Rim. It has been very successful around 1, now 2 large campuses in the country. We share the same vision that this is not about making money for the next 5 years and flipping out. This is about building a business for the long term and doing it in a sustainable manner. It's not about cheap or price or anything that you were trying to poke me with at the beginning of your questions. Now, how we do that is, I'll take water, which Kunlinka mentioned. I think it's a very, very important point, and rightfully, water gets a lot of audience in public media. From our standpoint, water is a resource we, the data center industry, should not tap the residential metropolitan water systems. And we do it in many ways. First, our data center design is a closed loop system whereby we do not allow water to evaporate and discharge. We use it in closed loop, a little bit more expensive on the capital expenditure. Our investor may not like it, but if you have a 30-year hat on, this is the right thing to do. Invest a little bit more in design, which reduces usage of power. Secondly, when there's no power available, we actually don't use water in our data center design. We use air-cooled solutions only. And most important point, there's ways to not disrupt the residential water access. For example, if you look at what we're doing in Mumbai, we look at what we're doing in Johor, we are building our own water treatment facilities to make sure there's zero grab on the water available for residence sector. This is just one example. When we go to power, similar, and I think Minister Akanat mentioned very rightfully the energy transition, we are going to go where the power is, and we're going to go where the renewable energy is. This is, again, 30-year mindset. We'll invest in IPS. We'll work together with developers like Big Rim to make sure that we are not disrupting, not increasing cost for the residential power sectors. We'll absorb the cost. We'll invest in that energy transition. We want to have sustainable solutions. The other markets in Asia, which allow lower power price, but using coal as an example, we don't believe that's the right thing to do. This is why Thailand has such many great ingredients for us to build the 30-year partnership we are looking for.
And what about the issue like how what Thailand should be doing in order to benefit from all these investment? Because based on your experience, I think this issue about like how data center investment benefits the economy as a whole, right? I think in other countries, I think we have similar discussion as well. What do you think like Thailand should be doing in order to make sure that we capture the benefits of having the data center over here?
Yeah, I think Kunling mentioned some of the initiatives we are having, but if you look at we together big with Digital Edge, we are building a large campus in Chonburi and soon to be in Rayong. We have close to 6,000 employees. They're all from Thailand. We work as much as we can with Thai SMEs, with Thai companies, with Thai supply chain. We look to create jobs not only across engineers and operations, but also logistics and transportation. The reach of data center projects, which are very large, goes well beyond what happens on our construction site. Actually, just given the sophistication and of the kind of supply chain being built in this market, there's opportunity to use some of Thai assembled capacities and move them to other markets in Southeast Asia. I think there's so much innovation and so much guidance from the leadership, from the government, that Thailand, in our view, should become a regional hub supporting data center growth in other markets in Southeast Asia. And it goes well beyond here. Lastly, is on the education side, the assets is very good, but it all comes down to the people. We are working together with Bigram and some of the universities in Thailand already on building the right programs. This is not about creating 5 people internship, like Kunling mentioned. We want to bring in AI scientist jobs to the country, and if you don't have AI data centers, you don't bring AI jobs. So the 5-layer slide, which we all like, I think is very good, and it shows you the job creation, the expertise that is going to be built for the Thai people, goes well beyond just the construction sites of data center.
Okay, thank you. Let me get back to you, Minister. I think one of the key things that I think the government used the energy transition as one of the key economic and policy mandate of the government. What can you tell us about this plan in the energy transition plans? I think there's a lot of issues about how the government would use this 200 billion baht borrowing to do the investment in energy transition. There's an issue about the PDP, the Power Development Plan, which is under a public hearing right now, and a lot of issue about the PPA, the Power Purchase Agreement, which is in pilot. What can you tell us, like what's kind of energy policy that the government is kind of have in mind right now?
That's a lot of questions. Well, in the introduction you mentioned that it's a tough job, fighting to stabilize, to secure the supplies, to stabilize the price, given the disruption to the supplies and the price mechanism after what's happening in the Middle East. But we must not lose this opportunity. I think given what's happening around the world, there's the right pressure and the right timing and right momentum to really accelerate through energy transition, because we really need to. I mean, we cannot, otherwise it will affect our living conditions, the cost of living, and also I think after all these problems, there's also new opportunity. And the energy transition provides the key to unlock an expansion in new economy, new industry, data centers, for example. So the government must not forget, must not just think about facing problems day to day, but must also think about the future and how energy transition can pave way for an expansion of economy. We'll bring in new investment, we'll bring in new industry. And right now, the power development plan happens to be in progress, and it's long overdue. The good news is, next month, hopefully, we will launch the new power development plan, which will provide a clear plan, and there will be continuity because this plan will stretch over 25 years, right until year 2050. And the reason we go to year 2050 is because we have commitment to net zero. So for the energy transition, the point of energy transition is to solve the problem of climate change. And the new power development plan will reflect that. In 25 years' time, we are committed to net zero. We'll solve this problem by a mixture of renewable energy and also carbon capture. So it will be quite aggressive. More than 60% of renewable energy in the new power development plan, at least 60%. The rest, carbon capture. But of course, we need to weigh up the cost between the two. So if carbon capture becomes expensive, we can push renewable energy right to 80-90% to achieve net zero. But of course, that's not the only challenge. Another one is energy security. And what the new power development plan will take into account of is not a diversity in generation, but also new infrastructures. For example, like the direct PPA, the new direct clean energy market that will work in conjunction with the existing market. It will also take into account things like independent power supplies, prosumers, grid modernization, energy storage. And good news is this plan is not a secret. I know the policy department has issued 4 alternatives that has already been submitted to hearing. So any contribution and input from investors and the public is of course welcome. So now I think it's the right timing. But given the pressure, of course, not only the government, but the private sector and also the public needs to work hand in hand in order to make sure that we can accelerate through this energy transition. There's, of course, options, diversity in different options, and the government will ensure right regulation, will ensure clarity, make sure that we solve the problem of climate change, we solve the problem of energy security, but we also think about the future, that this energy transition should bring about expansion in the industry and, of course, a thriving economy. And so, yes, I think we are taking into account all aspects of it, not just thinking about fighting to make sure that petrol price is cheap, but also thinking about the new power development plan, thinking about the new direct market, thinking about accepting new technologies like SMR to come to this country, thinking about new demand from data centers, thinking about clean energy that will enable and increase competitive advantage of the industry coming into Thailand. So a lot of things to do. And I hope I answered all the questions because it might need a lot more time, I think.
Right. I guess one of the questions people were asking is these investment in energy transition that Deputy Prime Minister Reignite mentioned this morning. What kind of projects that we can expect to be included in this $200 billion bill, baht bill?
The way we think about this is that we welcome investment from the private sectors. In fact, most of the capitals will come from the private sectors,
right,
like power generation now from private sectors. So the money that we get from the bill will be used strictly for the people who doesn't have the capital. So they can be part of we can bring them in the new generation, for example, renewable energy, solar. Instead of relying just on solar farms, now we are encouraging people to install their own solar panels to produce their own electricity. But the way we think about this is that we are investing to build their own power plants on the top of their roofs or on their lands. So this money will be used to build power plants for the people. That's the way we see it. Or the energy transition from substitute to importing crude oils is of course biofuel. So the transition needed for the engine, for example. So this would be paid for this. The rest, otherwise, we have in Thailand, a lot of investment. We have great companies. And if the government can work with the private sectors, that's where all the money comes from. So the money from the bill will be used strictly for the people and investing in encouraging solar panels to produce their own electricity and now in fact enables net billing. So we also buy electricity from the people, from the solar panel on top of their roofs. And maybe some for grid modernization to make sure that the grid can handle a lot more solar panels produced from households, but actually to make more provision for electricity produced from solar panels, from commercial buildings, from factories, because we can really increase the efficiency by using those excess energy. But unfortunately now, the current condition of the grid, it's not modernized enough. We need to invest in energy storage, we need to invest more, but in fact, most state enterprises, EGAT, already have a lot of money. And we can also bring in private investors where most of the capital will come from. So this money will be used, just reserved for the people. Yes.
Thank you. And Kulink, after hearing all those, what's your thought on the government policy in terms of energy transition, and what do you think the government should do more in terms of the reforms in the sector?
I'm really so glad that the current government will really look after the main issues. And if you talk about price, one issue is we have to import LNG. And if we can get more gas from Myanmar, we'll be happy forever. And I know this government is looking intensely at that part.
We will get more gas from you.
I think you should give the minister a big hand, because that's what we have been waiting for 10 years. And I think the other really important point is how can we uplift the economy of Thailand? So, of course, as you can see, everything is going more into the knowledge society. And there are some other things the knowledge society also needs in terms of hardware. Thailand has excellent people in the industrial parks. Thailand has amazing industrial parks. And for instance, we have a really modern electricity grid in the parks. We join very closely with the government agencies. So one thing you can be proud of as a Thai is that you have 3 electricity agencies that are really good and like to become even more modern. So it's a very close cooperation, and you can see in all these 5 stacks, but also in the education system, which needs to be upgraded all the time. And as BGRIM, we are strongly involved in all layers of education, because we think this is really the most important part. We want to show the world that Thailand is on top of education. And you can see one interesting part I find by going around the world and investing around the world is that when you are professional as a Thai, everybody loves to work with you. No exception. So wherever we go, we build the largest and the first private offshore wind farm in Korea. The Koreans are known for liking to come to Thailand, but not so much for liking others to invest there. And they really protect their industry, and we managed to build that there. We managed to build the largest wind farm in Japan. We managed to get into Vietnam. We built the largest regional solar farm in Vietnam, and what His Excellency just said happened there as well. We're building a large IPP now in Malaysia. Wherever we go, we have great projects coming up in Australia and America and Europe. Wherever we go, the people love to work with the Thai people. And the very interesting part is that sometimes other countries like to argue and fight with each other, but when our Thai people are involved there, they cooperate. So I think you as investors in Thai companies, if you see Thai companies going abroad, you can be sure that they will do well.
Thank you ครับ
And maybe let me also just say to our partners here, Digital Edge is the best possible partner one can find for data centers because they are real partners. So when you see our project, you don't know who did what. We all work together, and that way is the fastest project they have. Right? Thank you.
And Kun Yanif, what kind of policy change you want to see in Thailand as an investor, and especially in terms of an energy policy?
Yeah, again, I think a lot of the good things are happening already, and a lot of thoughtful steps coming from leadership. So that's why we are here. Maybe 3 things that we would raise is one, the clarity that Minister Ekanath mentioned. Take your time, but whenever you're ready. I think that will underpin the industry, at least on our side, data centers to be a multi-gigawatt industry here with IPS, with a lot of renewable energy, without putting burden on power price on the residential sector. All of that is possible through the good policies that we understand are being worked on. So that'll be kind of the first thing. Second thing is, if there's room for kind of an industry association to tighten the dialogue between public and private sector, I think something that we would encourage and happy to lead if there's an audience for that. Today, a lot of that communication happens over TikTok or some of the other social media, so it's not done in a more synthesized manner. So I think that industry association and then public to private channels would be additive. And thirdly, and this is very specific to data center, I do think that we should also embed the education and how the data center, to Kunling's point, how the data center industry should invest and promote all various of layers of education in Thailand. I think from our standpoint, it's definitely something we welcome and would like to lead. But if it helps to put this as part of the policy, we would welcome that a lot.
Thank you. We are really short on time. We were 20 minutes late. We were told to end on time, right? So let me give Mr. Minister the last word, right? I guess the question is, by Thailand Focus next year, what do you think we're going to see the change in terms of the change in terms of energy policy?
Well, I hope I survive until next year. But if I do, I will come back and hopefully will look back to this moment and feel that even though under a lot of pressure from challenging and tough times managing the energy sector during current conditions, what's happening around the world. But I hope to see a lot of changes, and we have achieved a lot of changes. The direct market for clean energy that we have waited for 2 years. And the first, it was only for data centers and with the limit of 2,000 megawatts. But now the government has been very aggressive. We have passed a resolution by the National Energy Board to now expand access to this market to all the industry that wants clean energy without the 2,000 megawatts limit. And we are quite aggressive in modernizing our grid, which I've spoken earlier. And in fact, most of these things, I hope I encourage, of course, private participation because we want all the money and capital from you guys. And so what the government is trying to do now is to make sure that there's clarity in policy and a clear direction going ahead, and that we're very committed to energy transition. As I've mentioned earlier, that I don't think the cost of electricity or the cost of capital will scare away investment like Digital Edge or the data centers. What scare them away is unclear direction and the length of time that might take to clarify the situation, clarify the direction of the policy. So we're working very hard. I'm working 25 hours a day. I wish there was 8 days a week, but we've already seen a lot of changes, and the government is very committed. And with private participation, I believe that this is the right momentum and a crucial time. And I'm sure going forward 1 year and looking back, this will be I hope that on this stage I think we're sending the right signal, and this is a great turning point that not only we are solving the current problems, but also look ahead and lay the foundation for the energy transition that will unlock new industry coming in and expand the Thai economy. Yes.
Thank you. I wish we had more time to discuss about these important issues, but we are out of time. So please join me in thank you, Minister Ekanat, Kun Link, and Kun Janif. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much all the panelists and moderator for this eventful session. Ladies and gentlemen, our previous session looked at something that quietly shaped almost every other conversation about growth and competitiveness, which is energy. Our panelists spoke about how Thailand is navigating its energy transition, balancing affordability with reliability and reliability with the shift towards cleaner sources of power, while keeping the country's competitiveness on the global stage. It was not a conversation about easy answers, but about trade-off, the kind of every country that has to work through as demand and technology continue to evolve. What made the discussion particularly worth paying attention to was how it connected today's pressure to tomorrow's opportunity, and how Thailand can turn the challenges of transitioning into a genuinely source of long-term advantage rather than simply a cost to manage. Ladies and gentlemen, our next session, Thailand's macro resilience, fiscal strength, debt, sustainability, and sovereign confidence. This session will examine how Thailand can preserve fiscal credibility while using its policy space to support stronger, more sustainable long-term growth. For this session, we are honored to have Vice Minister of Finance, Dr. Santithan Sathien-Thai, Associate Managing Director, Moody's Rating, Mr. Jean Phang, and Ms. Grace Lim, Senior ASEAN and Asia Economist, UBS Singapore, will be our moderator for the session. So ladies and gentlemen, may I now invite our panelists and moderator on the stage.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's a pleasure and honor to be here to host our distinguished speakers for this session on Thailand's macro resilience. Today, we are joined by two distinguished experts on Asia's economic outlook. Dr. Santithan Sathien-Thai is Thailand's Vice Minister of Finance. He has previously served on the Bank of Thailand's Monetary Policy Committee, following a very distinguished career that included roles as Group Chief Economist at C and Head of Emerging Asia Economics at Credit Suisse. Joining him on my right is Mr. Jean Phang, Associate Managing Director at Moody's Ratings, where he leads sovereign risk analysis across Asia Pacific. Together, our speakers bring perspectives spanning policy making, markets, and sovereign risk. Our session today will have spanning 4 acts. We'll begin with the first one. This first question or set of questions that we have prepared includes defining Thailand's fiscal space. Much of the discussion around Thailand's public finances focus on the statutory debt ceiling, yet debt ceilings are ultimately self-imposed policy constraints rather than hard limits. Investors increasingly recognize that a country's true fiscal space depends not only on borrowing limits, but also on debt affordability, financing conditions, revenue-generating capacity, and economic growth prospects. Against this backdrop, many investors would argue that preserving growth and maintaining a degree of counter-cyclical fiscal policy remains just as important as focusing on headline debt. So in that sense, the key question may not simply be how much debt Thailand can carry, but how much policy flexibility Thailand has when the next shock arrives. So therefore, to just open this entire session, my first question to Dr. Santitan would be, how do you think investors think about Thailand's true fiscal space today? And beyond the debt ceiling, what factors can give Thailand the flexibility to respond to future shocks? And more broadly as well, if Mr. Jean Phang can, add on, when faced with these cyclical shocks, how do you think policymakers should balance the various objectives of rebuilding fiscal buffers against the need to provide timely and targeted support for growth? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Grace, for that question and for, I think, setting the context so well as well. I think you're absolutely right that we need to distinguish the self-imposed legal limit and the true fiscal space. They're two different things. And when it comes to kind of fiscal policy management, under the leadership of Deputy Prime Minister Reignite, who was here with us earlier today, and our team, I think there are kind of three keywords we look at, and it's growth, efficiency, and discipline. I want to start with the last one, actually, which is discipline. And that's exactly what the legal limit, statutory limit, like 70% debt to GDP ratio is there for. It is a mechanism to keep us disciplined, to show transparency, to ensure that we have some credible commitment, some walls that we try not to pass, right? So it is a mechanism, it is a tool. It's not at the end kind of the wall that we cannot pass. It is not the ultimate point to show that this is only the fiscal space that Thailand have. So I think that's a very important point. But discipline is still very important, and I think I want to start with that, and not only because Jean is here, I would say that anywhere. But two other parts is very important of that. Efficiency. So it's not, when you have discipline, it doesn't mean that you do nothing or you spend on nothing, but it means you have to think hard about what are you spending it on and where the money is going. What is the ROI, if we were to use private sector kind of terminology on it? What kind of returns do we get, especially economic and social returns to the country? So we have to think about using digitalization, more data-driven approach to ensure that every dollars, every baht counts. And the most important is the first one, actually, which is growth, which is often underappreciated. The danger of not spending at all is that we end up hurting economic growth. And economic growth enters the fiscal equation in two important ways. First, the base of GDP, the denominator. When you divide everything with this fiscal balance, whether it's debt, it's all divided by GDP. If your GDP is continuously weak, that's going to make your life a lot more difficult, and that's part of the issue that we've been facing. The second part is that it also enters the revenue part of governments, because when the economy is doing well, the revenue growth is also doing better, especially when consumption-based tax tends to do even better than the economic growth rate. Then that also helps. So it actually killing two birds with one stone when you manage to improve your growth. So when you put it that way, the key question, the fiscal challenge that we face is more about how do we spend in such a way that generate structural improvement in economic growth over the long term.
Great. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the SET for involving me in this panel. It's an incredible honor to share the stage with the Vice Minister. I would agree that from Moody's perspective, when we think about fiscal strength or fiscal capacity, it goes far beyond statutory debt limits. And I think that what's most important for us is to understand how, over the medium term, how does a government manage their overall debt levels? How do they ensure a reasonable cost of debt? And how can they continue engaging the market in a way that ensures a good level of liquidity? Now, when we recently reviewed Thailand's sovereign credit rating, we ended up reaffirming the BAA rating, and importantly, we brought the outlook back to stable from negative. And part of the discussion really centered around how has Thailand managed its fiscal position in the wake of all of these consecutive global shocks that we've seen. Rising interest rates, the uncertainty around US tariffs, plus of course the energy market volatilities caused by conflict in the Middle East. And what we saw is that we have seen Thailand's debt to GDP rise considerably if you're comparing pre and post-pandemic. So before the pandemic, Thailand's debt to GDP was around 35%. And this year, we're forecasting it to be around 60%. But at the same time, even at a relatively weaker debt to GDP trajectory, we did see that Thailand will continue to have fiscal metrics that are broadly in line with its BAA peers on an international basis. And you can see that from the chart on the left side of this slide. So I think that's telling us that if you compare to pre-pandemic, there was fiscal capacity. Some of it has been used to deal with some of these shocks. But at the same time, we still think Thailand sits well relative to BAA peers. Of course, the shocks have resulted from a fiscal perspective in much of what the Vice Minister described. You've seen a slower recovery in revenues since the pandemic and a broadening and increase in expenditures. And I think you can see that from the right side of the screen here. But at the same time, what we didn't want to overlook was debt affordability. And we look at debt affordability at Moody's in terms of interest payments as a percent of government revenue. And on this front, Thailand is very well positioned compared to its BAA peers. You can see from the slide here that Thailand's interest to revenue ratio is at about 5.5%, which is considerably lower than where its peers are. And that gives us some confidence that the government is able to manage the cost of debt on an ongoing basis. And it reflects really the buffers that the government has in the form of a large and liquid domestic funding market that can continue to support debt on an ongoing basis, potentially even at higher levels. So in conclusion, I think what we're saying in our latest rating action is that Thailand still has some capacity to deal with economic shocks. It primarily comes from its access to funding markets and the way that translates into a lower cost of debt. But of course, it would be also advantageous as well if we take note of how the buffers have been used up, and opportunities to rebuild those buffers will be equally important going forward.
Thank you very much. I think both of you really put across some of the unique advantages Thailand has. Jean, you mentioned that the deep domestic markets and funding capabilities are also a testament of Thailand's policy credibility to some degree. And Dr. Santitan, you mentioned growth benefiting both the numerator and the denominator when it comes to debt sustainability analysis. So that really puts it across in terms of priorities where we have for fiscal space. So just zooming in on this question a little bit on growth. So we all know growth matters. And the question here really is growth the real constraint for Thailand, right? At this point of time, the flexibility of Thailand to respond to shocks remains there. But there's also significant opportunities in this new world, right? We have got supply chains evolving, regional connectivity deepening, and Thailand is well positioned to act as a strategic connector economy across ASEAN. So if fiscal space is not really the main constraint, do you think growth is the bigger challenge? And more importantly, how can Thailand convert its remaining fiscal and policy space into a new investment cycle that addresses both the structural challenges that Jean mentioned, as well as capturing these new opportunities? And where do you think policymakers should focus their efforts? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. To provide short answer first is yes, it is absolutely about growth. And I think for us, it's the key missing link to that growth, especially structural growth, not just year-to-year growth, is investment. And this is why we heard earlier from the Deputy Prime Minister, Finance Minister, why he put so much focus on the invest for tomorrow part, because that is the crucial part of improving the potential GDP. So here's how I'm going to go into the numbers a little bit. Wearing the hat, I used to be an analyst as well, so I love doing this. So GDP growth problem in Thailand is not just a one-time thing. It is a structural challenge that we face, and part of it reflects our demographic structure that has shifted rapidly aging population. What you can see on a chart, it's not coming up yet. It's all there. Okay, good. Is you can see that the part of the gray bar on the left-hand side is that the demographic decline essentially wipe out roughly around 1 percentage point of GDP growth each year. That means to compensate for the shrinking or smaller growth in a working age population, we need to increase the capital and or productivity combined. And all that can only happen if you invest enough. Now, look on the other side, you look at investment to GDP ratio in Thailand, it has stagnated around 23-24% for many, many years. What we need to do is to get that number up to around 30, and that's going to help us bring us back the structural rate of GDP growth roughly around 3% or above in terms of over a sustainable basis. And that's a key mission that the government is trying to do. Now, the Deputy Prime Minister talked about our framework, stabilize today, transition now, and invest for tomorrow. So I'm not going to spend too much time, but I want to focus a little bit on 2 and 3. So transition now, thankfully we had a energy minister earlier who eloquently explained this already, the difficult part, so I don't have to do that. But what I will say is that 2 and 3 are connected. Transition now, if we're successful in pushing energy transition, we're going to have greater supply of clean energy. And one of the trends that we see around the world around investments is sometimes what's called power shoring. So industries, actually modern industries, move to where there are availability of clean energy. So that's going to help us attract investment for tomorrow part. At the same time, while we're pushing for energy transition, what we're trying to do is to build new industries. So whether it's new energy vehicles, whether it's solar panel, clean renewable energy, all of this is going to be new investment, including investing into the grid that Energy Minister has mentioned as well. Now, that's important because that will allow us to unlock the private investments. One of the concerns we have a lot here, and it links to the fiscal issues, is that we talk about investments, but then in a budget, honestly speaking, we don't have a huge room to do investment because operational, OPEX already eat up 70% of the budget. So we need to mobilize the private sector. Thankfully, in Thailand, the composition is such that public investment actually account for about a quarter, only 25% or less actually. And 75% is private investment. So the fact that we can mobilize private investment, that's going to be the key to achieving the 30% of investment. And we need to do that by unlocking private investment by deregulations, make it easier to invest, having a clear, credible policy path. And then we need to also invest in people to make sure that the capital is turned into local capabilities so that SMEs can connect themselves to the new supply chain, whether it's electronics, photonics, power electronics, and what have you, as well as upgrading skills in the people. So I think this is our framework for investing for tomorrow, and it's connected to transition now, and that's how we're trying to get investment back to 30% of GDP.
Great. Well, I like the way you framed that question, Grace, because I do think that, quite simply, I agree with both the Vice Minister and you. Growth is, I think, the primary challenge that we see for Thailand now from a credit perspective. And I think a lot of that you can see on this chart here, that in that, simply put, after the pandemic, we've seen a much more modest recovery in terms of economic growth in Thailand compared to some of its peers. And I think for us, that highlights the fact that some structural challenges are really becoming more acute, including aging demographics, skills mismatches in the labor force, and the period of underinvestment, one might say, that the Vice Minister mentioned already. So again, I think that this is the core challenge that is going to help drive stronger government revenues. It's going to create more fiscal buffers going forward, and it's really going to address many of the core issues facing the economy. That being said, again, you can see from this chart that the growth trajectory for Thailand is still more or less in line with BAA peers. We have seen some resilience in the wake of recent shocks, and I think that obviously has come with some fiscal cost, but I think it does give us some confidence that Thailand has some buffers on the economic side as well that will continue to support it given a lot of the uncertainty in the external environment. One factor that continues to support growth in Thailand, especially in the wake of the recent conflicts in the Middle East, is really on the export side and on its role in the electronics value chain. And so Thailand, like many other countries in the Asia-Pacific region, have really benefited from the global drive towards investing in AI infrastructure. And you're seeing that in Thailand right here in the form of rising electronics exports. And the way that I think signifies Thailand's continued competitiveness in this part of the value chain. At the same time, I think that this is a very dynamic sector, right? And I think across the region, we're seeing value chains shift very dramatically as companies move towards a China plus one model. And new competitors are emerging for Thailand, including Vietnam and Malaysia and others, both above and below Thailand's positioning on the value chain. So it's a very dynamic market right now, and I think, not to mention that technology itself is disruptive. So I think the investments that the Vice Minister has mentioned are incredibly important in order to sustain that degree of competitiveness. Now, I'm not in a position to really talk about which investment priorities make the most sense. We want to be very policy neutral. But when it comes to the trade-off between investments and fiscal prudence, I think what I would mention is the fact that what we will look at as a rating agency is the ability to execute and to have consistency over time. And I think when it comes to that, when we look at Thailand, in recent years, we have seen that government CapEx has actually come in 30% or more below budget. So it's not the budgeted amounts that get us worried. It's the fact that, at some point, there could be capacity limits that prevent CapEx from reaching its full potential. And I think that could come in the form of just the capacity constraints at lower levels of government or at the local level. That happens not just in Thailand, but in other parts of Southeast Asia as well. So for us, government investment is not in and of itself the issue. What we will look at is the effectiveness and the efficiency of execution in how that government investment is being carried out. I have something else to say which actually dovetails on what the Vice Minister said earlier, which is really crowding in private investment, right? And we didn't plan this beforehand, but that's exactly what I wanted to mention as well. The ability of public sector investment to crowd in private investment is critical, and especially given the fact that private investment itself in Thailand, running at about 16 to 70% of GDP, is really below where it has been in the past, and another structural challenge that the economy faces. And we're obviously seeing some more positive signs now, especially in FDI, for example, rising FDI applications. Now, obviously, we want to see that transfer into real investments on the ground. But I think the interest in Thailand around electronics, data centers, electric vehicles, those are all very positive signs for where investment could be heading.
Thank you very much. I think you reiterated one of the points that we were continually debating, which is the efficiency of government fiscal policy, which is not just about spend, but about how to spend it in a way that crowds in more private sector capital. FastPass is an absolutely wonderful example of what the government has done over the last year to bring in much more effectively executing the pipeline that we had. Just drawing back the debate again to tailwinds and headwinds. So I think Jean, you mentioned tailwinds from the electronic cycle, but this year we also had headwinds stemming from the oil price shock that actually weighed on Thailand. And to some extent, we cannot run away from the fact that there will always be some sort of constraints that Thailand has as it invests for growth. So if we start from the premise that Thailand needs to invest today to secure stronger growth, where do you think the government should prioritize the spending? We talked a lot about energy as a key plank, but is there anything else in terms of the priorities that the government should do to build the foundations for the next phase? And I suppose maybe drawing this back to Jean and some of the external metrics, things like the current account, things like public debt, how does this constrain Thailand to some degree? Or do you feel that Thailand is in a unique position at this point of time that it can afford relatively accommodative monetary and fiscal policy at the same time? So thank you.
Yeah, no, let me start by showing the evidence that actually what you just mentioned, the FastPass and the crowding in of private investment. I think all of this is not theoretical. It's already started to translate into actual results on the ground. Of course, we have seen the application through the BOI has been strong for a while as capital get shifted around, diversification, Thailand benefiting from that like many other ASEAN countries. But the issue has been in the past was kind of translated to actual investment on the ground. And I think that's what the Dr. Eniti has been putting a lot of effort and focus on tackling issues to make sure that once you approve, we can get different government agencies in the same room and help solve problems together. And I think that has translated into a very strong investment growth for 2 consecutive quarters now. Private investment actually in Q2 at around, I think, 13% was the strongest in roughly 13 years. So we already seen very strong capex momentum coming back. And I think that's very promising. But again, execution is a key issue. And I agree with Jean very much that I think we need to focus on execution of the strategy, which is also why we have set up this joint private sector and public sector committee together. Because we know that, and to be very candid, private sector probably have advantage over government when it comes to executing things and making things happen on the ground and happen fast, and also adjusting to the changing trends. So we ask ourselves, instead of trying to second guessing, coming up with our own sectors, what matters, we're going to align ourselves with the private sector. We ask the private sector, what are the key sectors you're pushing for right now? And they have basically these 7 sectors. We look at our own plan, and it tend to match quite well. We asked the World Bank to do studies on them. It makes sense. These are the sectors you can unleash productivity growth. So these are 7 sectors that we're going to focus on. You can see it's a mix between the industry of the future, like smart electronics, like future mobility, medical wellness, but it's also something building on something we're already good at, like retail trading, agriculture, and food and tourism. And then we set together a joint KPI. This is where we really aim to achieve the execution. So we want to achieve above 3% structural GDP growth rate with quality, not the very lopsided K-shaped growth. We want to achieve investment as a share of GDP, 30%. And we want to achieve top 20 in terms of IMD Global Competitiveness Ranking. We're currently 26, by the way. And the 3 are related. If you boost your competitiveness ranking, you're likely to get that investment flowing, and it's to get up to 30. If you get investment up to 30, then you're likely to achieve +3 GDP growth. And very much aligned on private sector. And the approach we're going to work together with the private sector is not they just come and ask for things, but you tell us which areas you want to invest and what are the obstacles you face. We will try to unlock that. We are an enabler. We're not going to lead. We're not going to try to compete with you in doing these things. We're going to enable you to do it. And so that's kind of execution strategy and what we plan to do over the next few years.
Okay, well, as I mentioned earlier, we want to be relatively policy neutral, so I won't, I think it's hard for us to take a, we don't have a view on what the government plans to prioritize or highlight in terms of sectors or industries to prioritize. But I do think a couple points on what the Vice Minister just mentioned. I think we do see some of these challenges as being very stark for Thailand, given the economy where it is now. When we look at 3% potential growth, following the pandemic, we've actually adjusted our estimate of potential growth in Thailand down to 2.5%. So as I mentioned earlier, that's still very much in line with the rating peers, but I think for Thailand itself, getting that growth rate up to 3% would be a very tremendous achievement and would be very constructive in terms of addressing some of the other challenges we see in the credit profile. The other component of what the Vice Minister said, which I think is very important and good to hear as well, is the approach with the private sector, because I think that, as I mentioned earlier, the regional competitiveness around many of the export sectors in which, which have really featured prominently for the Asia-Pacific region is only intensifying. And of course, we have countries like Vietnam, which have rapidly grown their role in terms of electronics exports and their role in the global value chains. And they are also investing in greater capacity as well. So not to make it a purely zero-sum game, but I think a good interaction between private and public sector is going to be very important to ensuring good execution. And of course, that comes back to the value that we can expect to get from government investments going forward.
Thank you. So Jean is sector agnostic in terms of how he views investment, and Dr. Santitan highlighted some of the economic ecosystem in which Thailand can best focus its investments on. I think what's also very fascinating that in the FDI applications that came in this year, there's been a lot of focus on data centers, but in fact, we do see a broadening of that FDI to include things like, electronics, broader manufacturing, attesting to Thailand's position in the region, like Jean highlighted, still being competitive relative to region. I just wonder if you have any further comments on how you see Thailand standing out within this region, and perhaps both of you could, give some comments on what is Thailand's real competitive edge in this region. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right, and thank you for highlighting that we tend to focus a lot on data centers these days, but actually the FDI that's been coming to Thailand has been broadening, both in terms of sectoral mix as well as country mix, actually. And I also, apart from seeing it in the numbers, I also felt it as I travel around the world and meet different potential investors. Kind of the diversity we get in terms of interest that we get into investing in Thailand has changed quite dramatically in the past year. And in the sectoral approach, I think it's very interesting. We definitely have a lot of AI infrastructure related. So sectors, the things that go into data center, not just data centers itself, but photonics, power electronics, PCBs, those are very important. It's kind of electronic group. Then around new energy vehicles, you see also spreading to robotics, biotechnology, longevity economy. So these are actually new sectors being, investments are coming in. But of course, certain ones are more capex intensive than others by nature. So when you look at a sum, it looks like it's concentrated in one or the other. But actually, you are actually getting that kind of broadening base in Thailand. And I want to touch on what Jean has mentioned earlier too, which is we don't think it's a zero-sum game. It is actually something that ASEAN together, we can benefit from this trend together. If anything, our challenge as a policymaker right now is to manage that flow properly so that we ensure that it actually benefits the country. And Jean, you mentioned earlier around points around current account, for example. Of course, during this transition, when you move from the old industry, which you are good at, to the new industry, which you are not yet good at, there's going to be a transition in terms of external account because you end up having to import a lot of stuff, doing capex. But these are good things. So when you look at a current account in second quarter, which of course we track very closely, we do see that a lot of that is coming from capex. And that's actually a good thing because it can help build capacity in the future. Of course, there are also less desirable aspects of energy balance, which is being very negative, which is why we need to do the transition now portion that I mentioned earlier, because we need to reduce our dependency on the fossil fuel. But otherwise, I think these are some of the short-term pain that we have to go through in order to create a better and more resilient Thailand in the future.
Yeah, I think, thank you again for the question. It gives me an opportunity to share this slide, which I thought was quite interesting in that it shows Thailand is receiving more foreign investment into data centers and the AI sector as a proportion of GDP than other regional peers, including the likes of Korea and Malaysia. So I think that obviously points out the attractiveness of Thailand as a country with very good clean energy infrastructure and very favorable positioning from a geopolitical perspective as well, given some of the tensions between U.S. and China when it comes to AI and technology in general. So I think these are some of the attractions for Thailand as a destination for data centers. Now, I think Thailand, when it comes to data centers, is like probably faces some of the same challenges as many other governments globally. How can they make these investments generate more positive spillovers beyond the construction phase? How can it create more long-lasting, high-quality jobs, help to facilitate moving up the skills ladder in terms of the local workforce, and how can it create a foundation for AI to really play a larger role in the Thai economy by integrating in a complementary way with what the workforce does best rather than substituting. So I think that it's a really good example of the kind of crossroads where Thailand is at right now and the types of opportunities as well as the challenges that lie ahead.
Thank you. So now we move on to the final act of our session. And Jean, why we invited Moody's is because Moody's actually upgraded Thailand's outlook. So this question is really for you. If you were sitting here 5 years from now and perhaps Thailand's credit rating outlook is now AA, right? And we're discussing a more favorable outlook for Thailand. What do you think are the developments that would have most driven or contributed to that improvement? And what evidence would convince Moody's that Thailand has successfully converted today's fiscal space into stronger, longer-term growth while maintaining fiscal sustainability and external resilience?
Sure. Well, I think we've touched upon a lot of the key drivers already in the course of this discussion. But I think just to summarize, first and foremost, I think the key issue is going to be growth. And how can Thailand achieve a substantially higher nominal growth rate for an extended period of time? That is, as we mentioned before, the foundation for improving the fiscal metrics and potentially changing the debt trajectory going forward. And I think we would be able to think about that even before we see the results, once we start seeing some of the investments that the Vice Minister mentioned taking shape. And I think watching the track record of investment and policy centered around those investments begin to grow in a way that gives us confidence that the execution is there and that the consistency is also there, despite what may be happening across various governments and ministries as well. So I think that kind of long-term policy commitment is something that we will start to watch for, and when we see it translating into better growth numbers, I think that will be the first indicator. The second one is going to be fiscals as well. I mean, I think earlier we showed you the debt trajectory, and based on that chart, Thailand was very much in line with the BAA peers. So to get to the next level, in line with the A peers, I think we would like to see some more aggressive debt consolidation, so to speak. So a change in that trajectory towards a lowering of overall debt to GDP, or at least some indicators that that overall debt profile will begin to change, and those buffers are being built back in a more material fashion. The third element that I think is underlying a lot of this that we've only maybe just alluded to in passing is just consistency around some of the institutional and governance strengths that we have seen in Thailand in the past. So I think when it comes to things like fiscal policy effectiveness, we have seen a lot of external shocks in the past couple of years, but we haven't changed our view of the institutions underlying the fiscal policy, the debt management office, the capability of the government, and the intent of the government to bring fiscals into a more consolidating path. So I think that's a very reassuring foundation to build from, and I think that's the source of what we think will be the good execution going forward.
Thank you. And Dr. Santitan, what would success look like for you in practice? And which are the most important indicators that would tell you that Thailand has now entered a stronger and more durable growth trajectory?
That's a great question. I would say it's resilience with better growth. I think these are the two key things we want to achieve. Resilience, of course, with the fiscal discipline, with the macroeconomic stability, which will form the foundation. But better growth, let me expand on that. What I mean by that is three things: stronger growth, more inclusive growth, and more sustainable growth. Stronger growth, we have spent a lot of time talking about, which is going to be propelled by stronger investment, stronger competitiveness, which bring us higher structural GDP growth that Jean also mentioned earlier. More inclusive growth, we want to see the growth spilling over, the positive spillovers to the rest of the economy. So not just the industry of the future driving everything, but that spillover to the SMEs, bring over to better jobs for the workers as well. So that's the second part. And the third part is more sustainable growth is that less vulnerability. For example, if we are right and we do everything that we should in terms of transition now, then we should be more energy resilient, or at least less sensitive to energy shocks and shocks around the world. So together you have that resilience with better growth. And hopefully by this time next year, when we look back, we will be able to say that that was the moment where it started, and we had to see some results at least.
Thank you. So with that, I think we have come to the end of this particular session. The emphasis that we have for resilience is actually not so much hitting any particular metric in particular, but actually having that resilience, that strong institutions, the efficiency of fiscal spending to help us move to the next level for Thailand. So thank you very much. Please join me in welcoming our speakers. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our panelists and our moderator for such a fascinating discussion. What came through clearly in this conversation is that resilience is not something a country simply has. It's something that is built deliberately through consistent policy choices made over time. Fiscal discipline, sovereign confidence, the ability to keep investing even while managing risk carefully in order to build resilience with better growth. It is also a conversation that is tied together everything we have discussed so far today. Digital transformation, high value investment, energy transition. All of this ultimately rests on the same foundation, a stable, credible economy that investors can plan around with confidence. One theme that came through clearly from our speaker was the idea that investment itself is central to how Thailand sustains growth going forward, particularly as a country navigating a shifting demographic picture with a workforce that is not grow the way it once did. The emphasis shift naturally towards capital and productivity, working together to help fill that gap. So ladies and gentlemen, our next session, Geopolitics to Profit. Which Thai sectors will win from global realignment? This session will explore how Thailand can turn shifting geopolitical dynamics and global supply chain realignment into new opportunities for investment and growth. In this session, we have President Airport of Thailand, Ms. Paweena Jariyatithipong, Director and Senior Executive Vice President Bangkok Bank, Dr. Gopsak Putrakoon. Group CEO Indorama Ventures, Mr. Alok Lohia. President and CEO of SCG, Mr. Thammasak Setha Udom. Mr. Samir Koka, Thailand Country Head, CLSA Securities, will be the moderator for this session. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome all the panelists and moderator on the stage, please.
Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. For those who don't know me, my name is Samir Koga. I'm the country head of CLSA Thailand. I'll be your moderator for today. Topic is geopolitics to profit. Which Thai sectors will win from global realignment? Now, the four panelists sitting with me today in this city actually needs no introduction. They're the true movers and shakers of our community. I don't know if you audience realize that four of them combined, the companies are representative, is actually 10% of our SCT market cap. So it's actually a very big deal that four of you are here today, and it's truly appreciated. Please join me in welcoming to my furthest right, Kun Paweena Jariyatithipong, President of Airports of Thailand. Dr. Gopsak, Director and Senior EVP of Bangkok Bank. My furthest left, Kun Thammasak Setha Udom, President and CEO of Siam Cement. To my left, Kun Alok Lohia, Founder and Group CEO of Indorama Ventures. Truly honored. Now, geopolitics is a very important and topical conversation today, to the extent that even my 10-year-old daughter comes home randomly and asks me, "Hey, Dad, is Straits of Hormuz open?" Now, my answer to my daughter is quite simple. As long as humans are rulers of this world, geopolitics will exist, but will consistently change. Now, but fortunately, just like not everybody can win and make money at the same time, nobody loses at the same time. So today, with our experts, we would like to explore how Thailand can benefit from global uncertainties and which Thai sectors will likely emerge as winners. Now, my first question will be directed to all panelists, and it will be relatively brief. Now, before we talk about individual sectors, I would like to ask, how do you assess Thailand's position in the current geopolitical environment? You haven't actually given any order, so if anyone wants to go first with that question.
Okay. I think that geopolitics really create turmoil in the global economy. However, if you look at the investment that flooding into Thailand, it's pretty clear. Okay, so you see data center and non-data center investment still flooding into Thailand. Last year we have around 1.8 trillion FDI application. This year also close to 1 trillion. So this is pretty clear. And most people may think this is majority is the data center, but actually it's not. The majority is still non-data center. It could be biotech. It could be all those decarbonization, green economy, recycle. Everything is coming. So if you look at the government initiative, try to creating the new economic platform, this is an opportunity for Thailand to capture this FDI and then create a platform for the new economic engine for the next 20 years. So FDI is just starting, and you could see that not just the FDI that's coming in, but the government's also pushing into the policy change on the expanding on the trade, right? You see that Deputy Prime Minister Supachi also working tirelessly on the FTA and also promoting tourism and bringing the trading into Thailand. And then the Deputy Prime Minister Yotsanan also working on the human capital, right? Technologies, technology diffusion into our economies. And then Deputy Prime Minister Pakona working on the government efficiency, upgrading the legislation, create something called super license to create the ease of doing business. So you could see the 4 subcommittees that are pushing the new economy of Thailand into action, and they are working hand in hand. So this is the right thing that we try to achieve. Of course, it's taking time. At least we are moving into the right path. And I believe that if we continue to promote upgrading the law and the system and the technology absorption, Thailand will be a economic hub for the next 5 to 10 years and can last quite some time from now. So at least I'm very hopeful on this.
Thank you so much. Would you want to? Yes.
Thank you, Sam. I have a slide, if you don't mind, I'll put that up. So while they put the slide up, basically, I'm very optimistic about Thailand, and let me explain why. So I think we have to start with what has changed in the world, and many things have changed. For the last 30 or 40 years, the world optimized for efficiency. You produced wherever it was the cheapest, you sourced wherever it was the cheapest, and you carried minimum inventory. You moved products around the world. And everybody assumed the systems would work. I don't think we can make that assumption anymore. We have wars, we have tariffs, we have sanctions. We have seen disruption in the Red Sea. We have seen what can happen around the Strait of Hormuz. And we have increasing competition between the US and China. So the world is becoming more regional. And I think this changes the definition of competitiveness. Cost is important, but resilience is becoming just as important. We have lived this ourselves at Indorama Ventures. We are a Thai company, but we operate globally. Over many years, we built IVL across North America, Europe, Asia, and other markets. One thing we learned is that you cannot depend on one geography or one global supply chain. You need hard assets close to your customers. You need access to competitive raw materials. You need integration, and increasingly you need to be a local for local. We produce in America for Americas, we produce in Europe for Europe, and so on. When freight changes, when tariffs change, when energy changes, when supply chains are disrupted, this becomes a very important moat. And I think countries are now learning exactly the same lesson. And that is why I'm very optimistic about Thailand. On the slide over here in front of you, I've tried to illustrate some of the moats that Thailand has. And I've also illustrated a couple of moats that could be built. When I look at Thailand, I see a country which has already built several deep economic ecosystems. These did not come overnight. They took decades to build. And that matters because an ecosystem is very difficult to replicate. Let me give you a few examples. Food. The first is food and agriculture. We have called Thailand the kitchen of the world for many years. But I think food becomes even more strategic today than it was 20 years ago. If supply chains are disrupted, if fertilizer is disrupted, if countries start restricting exports, suddenly food security becomes national security. Thailand has agriculture, we have food processing, we have packaging, and we have logistics. We have access to the wider agriculture resources of this region. And I think of the region as a Lower Mekong or CLMV. So we should not think about agriculture as an old industry. It is a strategic moat, and the opportunity is to continue moving up the value chain. In manufacturing, this is the second moat for me. Thailand has been called the Detroit of Asia. But for me, the important word is not Detroit. It's the ecosystem. We have OEMs, we have tier 1 suppliers, tier 2 suppliers, tier 3 suppliers. We have engineers, we have industrial estates, we have ports. We have chemicals and materials. We have logistics. These things took decades to build. This is why I think we have to be careful when we talk about China plus one. You cannot simply say, I will move my factory from China to another country. Where are the suppliers? Where are the customers? Where is the infrastructure? Where are the engineers? Where are the raw materials? A competitive manufacturing base is an ecosystem, and Thailand already has this. And this was illustrated in the last 6 months. Since the Hormuz closed, Thailand was barely impacted in the petrochemical space. All our industries ran. We hardly had to cut output. We hardly had to disappoint any customers, domestic or overseas. Petrochemicals are actually a very good example of what I mean. Look at Mataput. Over decades, Thailand has created an integrated industrial cluster with refineries, crackers, petrochemicals, downstream manufacturers, infrastructure, and logistics operating together. We have Thai champions. We have global companies like BASF, we have Dow, we have Mitsui. From all the continents, the largest of the companies are existing in Thailand because we have this infrastructure. We have deep knowledge and skills, and this creates resilience. And IVL itself is a part of this industrial story. We started in Thailand, but we did not remain a Thai domestic company. We took what we learned here and built globally. Today, IVL has leading positions across PET, technical fibers, specialty chemicals, serving customers around the world. And we build different moats in different regions. In North America, for example, we have the structural advantage of shale-based feedstock. In other businesses, in other continents, we have integration. In PET, our scale and local-for-local footprint allows us to serve customers to where they consume our products, and so on. So when I talk about moats and resilience, this is not theoretical for us. It is how we built IVL. And I believe Thailand should think about its own competitiveness in exactly the same way. What do we have that is structurally difficult for somebody else to replicate? That's the question. There's another important change. ASEAN itself is becoming a much larger consumption market. But if we just look at the region around us, Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, I think we have a population of 250 million people just around us, which can become a large consumer. So this model doesn't have to always be to produce in Thailand and export to the world. Increasingly, it can be produced in Thailand for CLMV. This is important because regional supply chains are more resilient than very long global supply chains. And in CLMV, we can go by road access, I think, to this entire region. We are connected to the mainland Southeast Asia. We have infrastructure, we have ports, and we have established industrial base. We have relationship with China, Japan, US, Europe, and India. Thailand does not need to choose between East or West. Our neutrality is becoming an economic asset. Coming to tourism, healthcare, when you think of two other Thai modes which are connected, hospitality and healthcare, Thailand has built one of the world's greatest tourism industries. But I don't think the advantage is simply tourism. The advantage is that people like being here. People from China are comfortable here. Japanese are comfortable here. Europeans are comfortable here. People from Middle East are comfortable here. This is quite unusual. And Thailand has built world-class healthcare alongside this. Why is this important economically? Because companies not only compete for capital anymore, they compete for people. We experience this ourselves at IVL. We manage a very international company from Thailand. If you want to attract global executives and global talent, the quality of the place where they and their families live matters. Healthcare matters, schools matter, connectivity matters, quality of life matters. So hospitality and healthcare are not only tourism businesses. They are part of Thailand's competitiveness as a headquarter location, whether international headquarter, whether regional headquarter. The incentives that the government provides are fantastic. And I think this is something that Thailand should exploit even more aggressively. What are the next modes? For me, so these capabilities already exist. The question for me, what should Thailand build next? I saw two opportunities. First, capital. The first is capital markets. Look at Thailand's position. Around us, we have Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar. None of them have a deep capital market as we have in Thailand. We have a very large mainland Southeast Asian economy developing around Thailand. These companies will need capital. International investors will want access to these economies. Thailand already has an established banking system and a deep capital market. So I ask a simple question. Why can't Bangkok become the capital market for mainland Lower Mekong region? Why can't successful companies from the region access capital through Thailand? Why can't international investors use Thailand as a key gateway into the greater Mekong region? There is a special reason I believe in this. There's a personal reason I believe in this. Because Indorama Ventures itself is a product of the Thai capital market. We listed here, we accessed capital here, and we use that foundation to build a global company. Today, a company headquartered and listed in Thailand owns and operates industrial businesses around the world. I think this is an important story for Thailand. Thailand should not only be a place where foreign multinational companies invest. Thailand should be a place that creates multinational companies. IVL is evidence that this can happen. And if Thailand can become the capital market, supporting the next generation of regional companies, you can create another ecosystems. Companies bring bankers, they bring investors, they bring lawyers, they bring advisors, they bring talent, and eventually they bring headquarters. That could become another moat. Another moat, and as Kuntama Sak mentioned about the data centers, digital. The opportunity in digital and technology is immense. Technology itself is becoming geopolitical. You increasingly have an American technology ecosystem and a Chinese technology ecosystem. You have restrictions around semiconductors. You have questions about data sovereignty. AI infrastructure is becoming strategic infrastructure. Again, Thailand has an interesting position. We have good relationships with China. We have good relationships with America, with Japan, with Europe, with India. So why can't Thailand become a neutral digital hub connecting these ecosystems? We are already seeing data centers investment, but data centers themselves are not the objective. The objective is the ecosystem. Technology companies, AI, digital services, regional headquarters, talent, capital, again. I come back to IVL. We manage a global industrial network from Bangkok. We have businesses across very different economies, regulatory environments, and cultures. Technology and data increasingly allows us to manage this network as one global company while keeping our operations close to our customers. So Thailand has already demonstrated that it can be a command center for a complex global manufacturing company. Why should it become the command center for many more? Of course, none of this means Thailand automatically wins. Everybody is competing. Vietnam is moving quickly. Indonesia has scale. India has scale and talent. Singapore has capital and technology. China has extraordinary industrial capabilities. Thailand has to remain competitive. And for that industrial perspective, I would emphasize energy. We can have excellent infrastructure. We can have skilled people. We can also have established industrial ecosystems. But if our energy becomes structurally uncompetitive, eventually investment will go elsewhere. So Thailand needs competitive and predictable energy. We need infrastructure. We need regulatory consistency. We need to remain open to capital and talent. And I will measure our success in a slightly different way. Of course, new FDI is important, but I will look at it very carefully at reinvestment. Because a new investor invests based on what you tell him. An existing investor already knows you. He knows the people, he knows the infrastructure, he knows the government, he knows the costs, and he knows the problems. If he invests again, this is a real vote of confidence. So let me finish with IVL. We are a Thai company, we started here, we accessed capital here. My banker is sitting right here. We built management base here, and from Thailand, we built a global company. Today, we operate across the major regions of the world. We have built a local-for-local manufacturing footprint. We have structural feedstock advantages in some regions, and we have integration. We have global scale. And we have leadership positions in the businesses that serve everyday needs around the world. I think there is a lesson in that. The future is not about being completely global or completely local. You need both. You need a strong home base, you need a global capability, and you need local operations close to your customers. That is what we have tried to build at Indorama Ventures. And I think Thailand has the opportunity to do something very similar at a national level. We already have strong moats in food, manufacturing, hospitality, and healthcare, and petrochemicals. We should build new moats around capital and digital, but more importantly, we should connect them. So I think Thailand's ambition should simply be, how many factories can we attract? It should be, how many companies can we create? How many regional headquarters can we attract? How much capital can we bring here? How much technology can we develop here? And how much global talent can we attract here? The world is becoming more fragmented, and I don't think that this is going away. And in this world, resilience has value. Thailand has stability, Thailand has neutrality, Thailand has hard assets and deep industrial ecosystems, and Thailand sits in the center of one of the world's most important growth regions. At Indorama Ventures, we have built globally from this foundation. I believe many more companies can do the same. And that, for me, is Thailand's opportunity. Sorry, a bit longer.
It's okay. You covered a lot in your session, so I will move on to the next question since Kun Alok and Kun Thamasak covered quite a lot. Aviation, tourism, and Middle East disruption. Kun Parina, this is your specialty. I'll ask the question. Now, the conflict in the Middle East has disrupted traditional travel routes, airline economics. Now, in the short term, how is this affecting Thailand's aviation and tourism sector? That's one. But more importantly, what everyone here would probably appreciate more is, could these disruptions create long-term opportunity for Thailand to really capture additional transit traffic, airline capacity, and tourism flows? Sorry, it's a very long, you might need a similar time as Mr. Alok, but please try your best.
Thank you for the question. So I'm going to need like 2 days to answer all those questions. So allow me to talk about geopolitics first. So everyone knows that geopolitics happen all the time. We're facing us every single day, but we just didn't know what happened in another part of the world. But right now, we all know the information, and we know that it's very important for ourselves and for our business, and also the economic of Thailand. So in aviation, also getting the same thing. So it's happened when the Middle East situation happened. No, it happened before, and a long, long time before, geopolitics. Last year, in November, some other geopolitics happened. China and Japan, they have a little conflict about their politics. And then the thing that's happened is those both countries, they cancel their both flight. So they are available 2 million seats in the market. Right now, aviation world, people keep asking why the number of passengers is not coming back in the same level of pre-pandemic. The answer is it's aircraft shortage. And also, when we want to do something, we have to do it very fast compared to our neighbor, which is they are our competitor. So last time when the Japanese and Chinese conflict happened, so we go to talk to the Chinese carrier and Japanese carrier to asking to reroute from those countries to Thailand. The result is we got more passengers in Japanese and Chinese, like 30% increase compared to another year. Because we look at through the politics, geopolitics happen, and we react. So at the same time, this time it's happened, Middle East, so it affects us a lot. In the first day of the situation happened, the Middle East airline, they cancel all the flight. So our first 10 days of the beginning of the situation, all of the flight was canceled. And what happened to us? When people want to fly direct to Europe, so we have to buy the direct flight, which is extra expensive. But we still need to travel. So it's also some problem and also the chance for someone else. For Airport of Thailand, in the short term, it's mostly negative. So I do the short note. For example, about the flight disruption. There are no Middle East flight coming. Now it's 4 months past. All of the flight already resumed back 100%. And the number of passengers from Middle East getting higher than last year. Compare month to month, it's about 4% higher than number of passengers from Middle East last year. And also arrival drop. Of course, because the people who are Middle East, they want to travel to Thailand, they don't coming. And also when Thai people want to travel, aviation is about the origin and destination all the time. It's not just only, we don't have only one airport. We have to have origin and destination. So the arrival dropped. So the number of passengers getting down very much. Even last month, the number of passengers of the whole airport lower than number of passengers compared to the same period last year. And also the business market change. Before the Middle East passenger, they are repeater. They come like short period. And one people, they travel like twice a year to come to Thailand. But now they stay longer. They don't want to travel back and forth anymore. So for the Airport of Thailand, we lose the number of passengers. But for the country, they stay longer. So it's going to be the benefit of the country. And also the higher cost of the Jet A1 fuel getting high. So the price, airfare price getting higher. So right now, I think people get used to the situation and be a way to manage how the Jet A1 fuel. So the price being more stable and is more predictable. For the long term, the number of passengers getting low, that's what we thought. But somehow if we catch this situation, maybe we can bring some passenger through this situation. And so we got the revenue risk because our airport revenue rely on the number of passengers. So when the number of passengers getting down, the revenue also down. And also tourism structure change. We found out that the number of passengers, the nationality getting changed very much. We got more passengers from Southeast Asia recently after the situation happened. So about the benefit, if we are able to use this situation to turn it back into the benefit of Thailand, especially we are the airport of Thailand, so we have to manage all of the passengers to get into Thailand. Our share market of internal passenger in Thailand is 95%. So we really have to do something. So we found out that it's the market diversification. So because the situation happened, so they reroute, the airline they reroute. They're looking for another destination that they can be able to utilize the aircraft. Thailand is one of those airline targets. Even in Thailand, we have, in aviation world, we have, we call it freedom. We have 9 freedom, which belong to the right of the aviation of each country. So we need to use that freedom more, and we have to really utilize it in the good way to bring the benefit to Thailand. For example, now we are negotiating with the Middle East carrier if they are be able to do the direct flight from Bangkok to North America. Right now we have just only one route. We have just to Bangkok to Vancouver, but we don't have any route to North America. So we do some analysis and we offer them and we talk with them, negotiate with them, like if it's a possibility to fly from Thailand, do the direct flight from Thailand to North America. So this is a chance. And also the last one that people ask me all the time about is aviation hub. You know, how we can be the aviation hub? We have to talk about the infrastructure. And this time, when geopolitics and the structure of the airline, structure of the passenger change, if we develop ourselves like Airport Thailand in the right direction, that we can catch all those chances, we can be aviation hub very easy. Okay.
Thank you so much. Now, the next question, new industries and banking opportunity. Dr. Kopsak, this is your specialty. Now, as global companies diversify their supply chains in Asia, across ASEAN, to be more specific, where do you see most attractive opportunities for Thai banks in terms of project finance, corporate lending, or infrastructure building?
Thank you, Samir. Thank you, Seth, for inviting me to be part of this important panel. I cannot resist to go back to the first question. May I? Sure. Because I have been economist for the past 40 years, but never spent my life on geopolitics in the last 39 years until Donald Trump come back again. And now I cannot even sleep at night properly because every time I go to sleep, something happens. And it impact the capital market, and it's also impact our operations. But I want to tell you the following. I think at the end, ASEAN and Thailand are the main beneficiary of the geopolitics. I think we, on net basis, benefit from it. We have to manage the impact, definitely. The impact on the oil price, up and down. Now running between 90, 80, 90, 85, 90 plus minus. but then we have to really learn how to live with a little bit higher price for the oil. I think now we quite manage that. I think the government have been trying to find substitute, alternative source, and I think we have managed it quite well so far. Tariff also happened. Last year dominated by tariff. But this year is coming back again. We have been managing it quite well. At the end, we get 19%, which is okay. And this year, I think 301 come back. It will come with forced labor, 12.5%. Later on, overcapacities will definitely hit Thailand. And later on, we also might have been one of the target for transshipment. So in a way, I think we are not out of the hook, but we have to learn how to manage it. So far, if you look in terms of export of Thailand to US, which is the market that has been tariff, our export growing 40% year on year. So we have been doing quite okay, partly because of the product from Thailand to US has been exempted by 72%. A lot of this headline is about 28%, but the majority is already been exempted because they are part of very important supply chain in AI. So basically, Seagate, WD, Western Digital, HP are able to send product to America very easily and no tariff. So basically, in a way, I think we have managed the negative impact quite well. But we also being the beneficiary of the geopolitics. I think tourism can be worse than this, but I can tell you that I went to Paragon. I noticed that so many Middle Eastern people there. They walk around, and I thought to myself that they have nowhere to go now, right? But without them, I think the impact on tourism in Thailand will be much worse. I think so. We also have been able to gain, and the reason we gain is because they perceive Southeast Asia as an oasis of stabilities. This is where people don't engage in the conflict, and it's turned out to be a safe place for everyone, including FDI. We also gain a lot from FDI. And the most important thing in geopolitics that I want to tell you is that we have passed through the immediate challenge, but the main challenge is yet to come. I think we have to wait for it because we start to see what happened 2 days ago. Either you are our allies or you are our enemies. Pick one. Sometime it will take some more time, but then it will come to our area. And if you notice it, Donald Trump come to ASEAN this year, in the last year. Pete Hegseth also came. Rubio also came, right? There's never a time when the top three like this coming to Southeast Asia on the same year. It must be something that they are thinking about, and I think our area move closer to the center of the radar later on, that we have to prepare ourselves. Now, let me go back to the question that you want to ask me. And I think bank is also a beneficiary of the conflict. I can tell you that. Let me show you some of the slides I prepared. The FDI to Southeast Asia or to ASEAN has been highest than ever. 10 years ago, the share is roughly about 4%, the yellow line. 4% of the global FDI come to Southeast Asia 10 years ago. Now we got 17%, and that is 2023. If we are talking now, it's probably 20-25% of the global FDI. What does that mean? It means that now we are experiencing the wave of the investment that we have been waiting for a long, long time. since the investment went to Chindia. Now they're coming back. And it's not only coming back for Thailand, it's coming back for the whole region. And Thailand alone, let me tell you, I used to be in government. To get 500 billion per year of BOI promotion is already hard. But last year we get 1.9 trillion. And this year probably get 2.5 or 2.8 trillion. 5 times normal level. So it means that now we are in benefit. I mean, we really the target of attention, and people now really moving into the regions. Let me show you what we have been accomplished. They told me to have only 2 slides, so I put them together.
So you combined it all.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. This is usually be 6 slides.
Very intelligent as always. Yes.
What can I do, right? It's all important, but I speak not to each one. I just want to tell you, this is what we accomplished over the last 2 or 3 years. In the last 2 years, we become top 5 PCB producer of the world. Just in the last 3 years alone, from nothing. Now we become top 5, right? Semiconductor, we want it for a long, long time. They're coming to Thailand. We would like the robotic, humanoid. Now Chinese company now moving into Thailand also. AI, Kun Alok and Kun Thamasak already talking about AI. And data center, a lot of interest. The question is, can the government serve them, right? Can we provide them the right location and also electricities and others? And EV, now we definitely become the hub of EV production of the region. Smart agriculture and also in terms of regional headquarters. We definitely turn the corner for Thailand. I mean, maybe we have low growth rate at this point in time, but 3 years, 4 years from now, we probably reaching 3.5 or 4% again. Easily because we have a new engine, right? And let me show you one more photo. This is car production. This is slide I got from Apico. We used to produce 1.9 million cars per year. Now it's 1.5. You feel very bad, right? Oh, Thailand sector is coming down. But in fact, the projection is going up to 2.5 million later on. So what this means is we are in transition. We are relegate the old production mode, the old technology, and enter into a new one. And at this point in time, it might be slow, but later on, once we tread the old one, we will probably be growing fast again. And that will be very important for Thailand because we have been waiting for this for a long, long time. And for banks, now I have to talk about banks, right? Yes. You can buy some more. Why? Because we are the main beneficiary of it. FDI, when it comes into the country, right, it means more supply chain, domestic supply chain. Our customer will be part of it. Many people talking about Chinese company come in, they bring their own supply chain, but in fact, no. The major one use local supply chain, use Thai employees. BYD have 6,600 employees, 95.5% Thai. And they also use Thai part in their production. And not only that, when they come in, I'm telling them, what does this picture mean? It means a lot of new competitors that we never know before. I've been telling our clients, our customers that this is the time to borrow from the bank, to change your factory. If you don't change it, you die. I'm telling you that because of the new competitors come in with a new technology, new base of cost, right? So basically, if you still stay with the traditional one, the old factory, you definitely cannot compete. So it's the time to reinvest in digital technology, new technology. It's also good for the bank.
So we're in the transitional phase of pretty much survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
You snooze, you lose.
We really have to change. And in fact, the competition coming from geopolitics in terms of robotic, in terms of AI, it really drive up the pace of change. So we really have to talk to our customer and convince them this is the time to change. This is the time to really invest into your futures. And we also have to do green. It's a requirement. Data center need green. And we also have to tell them if Thailand is no longer growing, then we have to go abroad to the region. In fact, Southeast Asia is quite a good base. I have heard from Kun Thamasak. Can I borrow your line first? Every company need an ASEAN strategy because you compete with the Chinese company. You will never compete with them if you only have 60 million. But if you have 680 million, that's something, right? So with the right scale of the market, you can really bring the cost down and you can compete and use the same technology plus local knowledge, you can do it. So all of these things is good for the banks, right? Green technology, digital technology, be new supply chain, and also all the infrastructure that related to this change of investment. And that's exactly why we very much confident.
So if I'm hearing correctly, and I think the audience might be interested, am I hearing that we'll start hearing Bangkok Bank boosting up its loan growth?
Oh yes.
Like to extraordinarily high level?
Yeah, okay, let me say the following. We might have some problem with the very small SME.
Yep.
I mean, if you look at the loan growth for the small SME, it's still negative, right? Consumer loan is also some question mark, but Bangkok Bank don't do that. We only do corporate, which is exactly all of these things. And we're also doing international banking. We also have the base in ASEAN. So that's exactly why our loan growth still continue. Now it's my promotion time. That's exactly why we have been able to grow our loan over the past last year, 4-5 quarters. Our loan growth still okay because we not only do it in Thailand. A lot of our loan is PT, it's Indonesian. And we see great opportunity in all countries in ASEAN and also in Asia, definitely. And we don't lose hope in Thailand, definitely. We also think a lot of infrastructure is coming.
Slowly, each panelist is convincing me that we're in the sweet spot.
Right. In fact, one of the best beneficiary of all the conflict is SCT.
Yes, definitely.
Our stock now is 1,600 again, right?
Good promotion there.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Well, one thing I definitely learned is if you want to avoid bad things to happen, I think you should sleep less. Because you did say every time you sleep, you wake up, something bad happens. Okay. Last but not least, we have still a lot of time, a little bit more time. Now, this topic comes a lot now, especially in ASEAN country and Thailand, especially because of the close relationship with China. So, China plus one, supply chain diversification. Now, that is also a big part of the massive FDI boom in Thailand. The question I have to Kun Thamasak is, do you think this is a temporary response to the current tensions, or this is a structural change here to stay for the next decades or so?
Thank you, Sam. And I think the trend of the China plus one and the flooding of the FDI getting into Thailand is a structural change. Dr. Kopsak already pointed out the very important data that FDI now coming not only into Thailand but also into the whole ASEAN. Thailand situated in the center of the ASEAN. That's why we are really benefit from this. But we need to capture it. Let me respond this way. This is a structural change in my opinion. But more important things is when you look at China, which is the second largest economy at the moment, and going to be the big one, who knows when. But anyway, when you are dealing with the giant, you need to have a strategy. And I really promote the ASEAN strategies because we need scale. ASEAN scale is enough to be, in the global arenas. And China, overcapacity in China is very severe. If you look at the price point, if you look at the impact from the trade tension, a lot of cheap product from mainland China flood into the ASEAN and impact almost every industry. That for sure. And this is something that very scary to all the industrialists. However, if you look another angle, a lot of FDI also coming in, technologies transfer, a lot of trade discussion also coming into the ASEAN. This is a very good opportunity for us. Actually I'm in and out mainland China for quite often. If you look at the price and competition in mainland China, it's very, very, very tough, very fierce. It's almost a classic red ocean in the mainland. However, the same product and the same production, if operate in ASEAN, it's become the blue ocean. So that's why a lot of incentive for companies who operate in the mainland really want to operate outside China, not just to circumvent the trade to the US. Actually, many Chinese partners don't think that way. They think that the US will find a way to block anyway. So you're going to see a permanent polarized, economic zone into the future. However, the technology and the innovation progress and the demand in ASEAN, in Africa, in India is there that someone need to capture. And ASEAN could be a partner and a springboard to capture that. If we really want to benefit for long term, not just to do the SMB job in Thailand or in ASEAN, we need to upgrade ourselves. Number one is the scale. We need the scale. Home-based scale is big enough. Secondly, we need to absorb the technology, supply chain. These are the things that could be permanent. Let's just take one example of EV. At the moment, we are very good and big scale. You look at the number, we are very good assembly line. But we have a chance to deeper develop the supply chain to supporting this EV movement, right? So that is the opportunities we are talking about. However, we have to invest. We have to invest. And at the moment, it's not like a labor intensive anymore. We are talking about the physical AI, robotics. These are the things that when you invest in one particular industry, it could transcend to another industry very easily. We are not just talking about the humanoid yet. The industrial robotics is catering and designed for a particular industry, but one humanoid can use to many industries. So that another level of efficiency is coming. So in my opinion is that at least SCG, we are, starting to shut down the old factory in the ASEAN, building a bigger one, a newer one. When you make a bigger facility, you can put AI, you can put robotics in at a very efficient cost. And then not only cut the labor cost, but more importantly, improve the qualities, reduce the waste, reduce the energy consumption. If you calculate all of this, you're going to see a huge efficiency gain. So that's why I really promote investment, and I believe that Bangkok Bank will definitely support. Not just to SCG, but all the SME who really want to do the transformation. So these are the things that I just want to give you some example that we cannot just go for the surface. We need to deepen our capability and supply chain to create a structural and permanent competitiveness over the next 10 to 20 years. So that's my point. Yeah.
Well, this comes to an end of our discussion. I mean, when you have 4 heavyweights sitting here, 50 minutes is not enough time, but we try to squeeze in as much knowledge and information as we can. So firstly, a round of applause to the 4 panelists here, please. Now, I would like to conclude, actually. I mean, sitting here all day, it's been a long day, but almost every session, the message is quite consistent here. I mean, obviously, geopolitics is a hot topic and a very topical one. But with geopolitics, opportunity is created. And I think numbers and the market is efficient. So the fact that our market is actually up 27% year to date, and actually we one of the few markets which is up in that substantial amount in percentages, especially not really linked directly, our market is not directly linked to AI expansion. So the markets which are actually surging like crazy is North Asia, Japan, Korea, and Taiwan, which is a pure AI play. So if you read through the numbers and indications, and also Thailand is the only market in Asia where this year we're facing inflow from foreigners. And the other markets, even with substantial percentage gain, foreigners are net sellers, so it's all locally driven with the retails or domestic market. So there's no doubt the message is clear today that Thailand is in the sweet spot to benefit. Not in our previous discussion, Dr. Kopsak, we mentioned this is phase 2 of our expansion after the Plaza Accord situation. But what is quite clear is that success does not happen on its own. So clear, right policies have to be implemented. That's from the government side. And on the corporate side, we have to help implement and execute. And on the SME, we have to reinvent ourselves. Like you said, it's survival of fittest. If we can get past this, I think the next decade could be really bright for us in Thailand. I would like to thank everyone for attending today. And thank you again, all the panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much all the panelists and moderator for such a meaningful session. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us in this enlightening session. With that, we conclude this event. A special thank you to all speakers, panelists, moderators, and all participants for your engaged contribution. We wish you a delightful evening and a pleasant stay in Bangkok, and we look forward to the possibility of seeing you again next year. ขอบคุณและสวัสดีค่ะ